Well, hello! I'm Pope Urban II, and I'm going to tell you about 5 major crusades. The city of Jerusalem was a very important city to both the Christians and the Muslims. For the Christians, Jerusalem is holy because it was the place where Jesus lived, taught, was crucified, and was resurrected. For the Muslims, Jerusalem is where Muhammad was believed to have risen to heaven. When Jerusalem, the Holy Land, was captured by the Muslims, the Byzantine Emperor Alexius I called for the help of the Pope Urban II to launch a crusade to regain Jerusalem in 1096. What followed was the famous speech of Pope Urban II at Clermont. A race of Franks raced from across the mountains, race beloved and chosen by God, as is clear from many of your works, set apart from all other nations by the situation of your country, as well as by your Catholic faith and the honor which you render to the whole kingdom of the Persians, an accused race, a race wholly alienated from God, a generation that set not their heart aright, and whose spirit was not steadfast with God, violently invaded the lands of those Christians and has depopulated them by pillage and fire. The First Crusade was successful in retaking Jerusalem, but soon after, the Middle Eastern city of Edessa was easily retaken by the Muslims in 1144. A second crusade was launched by the French nobles in 1147, but fell easily. In 1187, Saladin took back Jerusalem. Now, as one can imagine, the Christians are very angry, but not all hope is lost. In 1189, Frederick Barbarossa of Germany, Philip II Augustus of France, and Richard the Lion-Hearted of England joined forces for a third crusade.
Richard the Lion-Hearted. Je m'appelle Philippe, Kaiser Barbarossa.
Philip II and Richard the Lion-Hearted argued so often and so intensely that Philip II returned home, and Barbarossa drowned on his journey, leaving Richard the Lion-Hearted fighting alone.
I'm still Richard the Lion-Hearted.
After many battles, Saladin and Richard the Lion-Hearted agreed to a truce in 1192. But the truce wasn't enough, and a fourth crusade was launched in 1204 to recapture the Holy Land. However, the Holy Land was never reached. After the Crusades, there were many lasting effects, including the stimulation in trade. The Crusades weakened the influence of the Pope, weakened the influence of the nobles, and increased the power of the king. Because of the loss of feudalism, the government became centralized. The Crusades left bitterness among the Christians, Jews, and Muslims. The historian Karen Armstrong, during the Crusades, when it was the Christians who had instigated a series of brutal, holy wars against the Muslim world, Islam was described by the learned scholar monks of Europe as inherently violent and intolerant faith. Intolerance of Islam has become one of the most received ideas of the West. The Crusades increased demand for Middle Eastern products because when the Crusaders returned with goods from the Middle East, they were a huge hit back home, which prompted trade to try to receive more of those goods. The increase in trade indirectly also caused the beginning of banking in the Middle Ages. While Western Europe has largely shaken off the legacy of the Crusaders, their impact elsewhere in the Christian world shows just how long-lasting and destructive they were. According to historian Karen Armstrong, what did situation of your country, as well as by your Catholic faith and the honor in which you render to the Holy Church, to your discord. He has so many big words in here. It's so hard to read. It's like a little.